Well, there's fresh scrutiny for police in Uvalde, Texas, as a 911 dispatch call appears to confirm officers were told the gunman was in a room full of victims as they stood outside.
You have a child online. Child is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
Well, Lydia Morales, along with her mother Monica, cared for many of the victims at their daycare centre when they were just toddlers. They've now set up a memorial, 21 chairs with each of the names of each of the children and the two teachers who were killed on a white piece of paper. And Lydia joins me now. Lydia, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I can't even imagine what it must be like for all of you connected with this school and these poor children who were murdered. You had, I think, over 10 of these kids come through your daycare centre. When you first heard what had happened, what were your feelings?
I was really in shock. I didn't think this could happen, especially to a small community. When we actually heard what was going on, we locked down our daycare center just to ensure the safety, just because there was a lot of commotion going on, especially because our daycare is actually located by, if I'm not mistaken, it's Dalton Elementary. So there was just a lot of commotion going on at that time. And so, you know, just for safety protocol, we locked down our daycare center and hoping that we kept the safety for everybody.
It must have been agonizing for you to discover that so many of the children who'd been at your daycare center had actually been killed. And I also know, Lydia, that
it's hard to think that these families are not going to be able to hold that they're not going to be able to hold their child ever again.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incomprehensible atrocity. It's not a tragedy, because a tragedy implies somehow this, you know, this was accidental or something. This is a deliberate annihilation of young children by an 18-year-old who just decided to destroy their lives. I know that you were also personally close to Mrs. Garcia, one of the two teachers who died. She actually taught you. So this is very personal for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. She actually did. She was my third grade teacher here at the school right behind me, Robb Elementary. I was here probably when I was like 10 as well, so a good 12 years ago. I walked these same halls that the tragedy took place.
Lydia, what is your feeling? There's a huge debate raging now about guns, about mental health, about all sorts of issues which may have contributed to this. What is the feeling, do you think, of the community about what's happened here?
I think a lot of it needs to change, at least with the gun violence, it needs to change, and mental health needs to be taken seriously, and not just as a walk and talk thing. It needs to be where you need to sit down with that person, talk about what's going on with them, talk about their past history, especially even now more so with the tragedy that took place here.
I mean, there's always been a debate after all of these massacres in America about gun control, you know, taking some guns away from certain types of people. It does seem strange to us here in the UK, for example, that an 18-year-old can't buy a beer until they're 21, but they can buy a semi-automatic rifle. Do you think that something like that ought to change, that kids, young people, teenagers should not be able to get these kind of guns?
I do believe something does need to change because, like you were saying, how your laws are different from here from the United States. Here they could buy a beer at 21, but they could buy legal guns and stuff at 18 years old. It just doesn't seem right. Especially, even now more so that this tragedy took place that involved, you know, guns taking the life of 21 people.
You've done this wonderful little tribute of these chairs. What was it that made you want to do that in particular?
We just wanted to show our support for the community, especially during this tragic time, especially for the families. I noticed right now too, we have more people putting out bears, they're putting flowers, they're putting the little rocks that have messages and stuff, in hopes that with all this stuff, we will be able to give it to their families as a, you know, as a reminder that we're all here together in Uvalde and we're standing strong for one another.
And Lydia, is there anger amongst the local community about the way the police conducted themselves? I just wondered what your view is of the debate about the failure of the police to go into the classroom, given they were in the school for over an hour.
I do believe there is some anger around the community, but at the same time, you know, everybody's trying to hold together, at least to be strong for the families of these lives that were taken.
Yeah, I completely understand. Lydia, thank you so much for joining me. It's just unbearable to think what has happened there, and the fact that you knew 10 of these children who'd come through your day centre, the fact you used to be taught by one of the teachers who died, it must be particularly unbearable for you, and I'm incredibly grateful to you for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.